There's a moment in every person's life when something quietly but powerfully changes. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It often happens on an ordinary morning, when the alarm rings, and you stare at the ceiling wondering, is this all there is? That moment is not failure. It's the call of your higher self, the person you were meant to become, whispering, "It's time." That whisper is where all success begins. The story: I once met a man named Ethan Carter, a small-town mechanic with oil-stained hands and big dreams that never seemed to fit his reality. He used to tell me, "If I just got lucky once, I could make something of myself." Luck, to him, was the missing ingredient. He waited for it every day, like waiting for the wind to change. But as the years passed, nothing did. His shop stayed small. His dreams stayed on hold. His life felt like a loop of repetition. One evening, after another long day of fixing engines, Ethan sat outside his shop and asked a question that changed everything. What if success isn't something I chase, but something I attract by becoming the kind of man who deserves it? That question was the spark. And from that spark, a fire began to grow. The shift begins. Ethan realized he'd been living backwards. He was chasing success like a dog chasing a car, running hard, but never catching it. He thought success lived out there, somewhere in luck, timing, or other people's approval. But then he saw what Napoleon Hill wrote a century ago. Before success comes in any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat. But the man who quits easily does not have the character to attract success. Ethan began to see that success isn't a prize you win, it's a reflection of who you become. He asked himself, if success were a person, what kind of person would it want to spend time with? Would it want someone who complains about luck? Or someone who takes responsibility for every choice, every habit, every thought? That question became his compass. Clarity is power. Ethan had always said he wanted to be successful. But what did that even mean? Most people use that word the way children use magic, as if saying it makes it real. But success doesn't come to vague minds. It comes to clear intentions. He remembered a phrase from Think and Grow Rich. A definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its achievement is the starting point of all success. So one night, he sat at his kitchen table with a blank notebook and wrote a simple question at the top. What do I truly want? Not what his father wanted, not what society expected, what he wanted. At first, his mind went blank. Then, slowly, words started to come. I want freedom. I want to help people build things that last. I want to wake up excited, not exhausted. I want to feel proud of the life I live. He wrote for an hour. When he was done, he looked down and saw his soul on paper. That was the night his direction appeared. The power of decision. Napoleon Hill often said that indecision is the greatest thief of opportunity. He wrote, successful people reach decisions promptly, and change them, if at all, very slowly. Ethan realized he had spent years waiting for the right time, the perfect idea, the safe path. But waiting had only given him more waiting. That night, he decided to stop being a waiter and start being a chooser. He said out loud, I will build something that gives me freedom, a business that serves others and gives my life purpose. The moment he spoke it, something inside him clicked. It was as if the universe, once deaf to his wishes, suddenly leaned in and said, now you're serious. When you get clear, life starts to listen. The universe loves specifics. Vague goals create vague results. Saying, I want to be rich, or I want to be happy, is like telling your GPS, take me somewhere nice. Ethan stopped using general words. He became specific. Instead of, I want to make more money, he wrote, I want to earn $100,000 a year doing work that helps people create value. Instead of, I want to be happy, he wrote, I want to feel energized each morning and spend weekends with the people I love. The more specific he became, the more real it felt. He read his goals every morning and night, like a prayer. He didn't just think about them, he visualized living them. He could see the freedom, feel the gratitude, smell the oil of his new workshop filled with young apprentices learning from him. And slowly, he began to act differently. Action follows clarity. When you know what you want, your actions gain direction. Ethan stopped saying yes to everything. He started saying no, not out of arrogance, but out of focus. He declined jobs that didn't fit his bigger vision. He stopped wasting hours scrolling through other people's lives and started working on his own. He replaced complaints with questions. How can I make this better? People noticed the change. You seem different, one customer told him. Like you know something we don't. He smiled. I do, he said. I finally know where I'm going. The law of attraction in action. Within months, opportunities began to appear, not because magic happened, but because his mind was tuned to see them. A friend introduced him to a local entrepreneur looking for a partner in a small manufacturing business. Ethan had never thought of himself as a businessman, but this time he didn't hesitate. He had clarity. He had direction. They built a workshop that trained young mechanics and sold high-quality equipment. Within a year, Ethan had doubled his income and built something meaningful, not by chasing luck, but by becoming the kind of man luck visits often. He had attracted success by growing into it. The lesson: success doesn't come to those who wait for it. It comes to those who prepare for it, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You don't find clarity by sitting still, you find it by deciding. You don't attract success by wishing, you attract it by becoming. Ethan's journey began not with a business plan or a mentor, but with one quiet decision. I will become the person success is looking for. And from that moment on, everything changed. Closing thought: your life can change the same way, not someday, not after luck strikes, but the moment you decide to stop waiting and start becoming. In the next part, we'll follow Ethan as he faces the first real test of transformation, the pain of growth, and how to turn discomfort into strength. Would you like me to continue with part 2? Embrace the pain of growth in the same storytelling tone, another 1,000 words. Part 2, the morning that changed everything. Engaging hook: most people wake up and start running, not toward their dreams, but toward their distractions. They check their phones, scroll through noise, rush through mornings they never truly own. But there's something powerful that happens the moment you stop letting the world decide how your day begins. The moment you decide to take command of the first hour after you wake up. Because that first hour is when your mind is wide open, like fresh soil, ready for new seeds. What you plant there, chaos or clarity, doubt or direction, determines everything that follows. That's where Ethan's story continues. The morning routine revolution. It had been 6 months since Ethan Carter, the small-town mechanic, made the decision that changed his life, the decision to become the kind of man success was looking for. He had clarity now, goals written on paper, and a burning sense of purpose. But something was still missing. His days were unpredictable. Some mornings he felt unstoppable. Other mornings he felt lost again. Then one morning, he read a line in a worn-out copy of Think and Grow Rich. The way you start your day will determine how you finish it. He realized his mornings had no order. He was feeding his mind chaos instead of vision. So he decided to rebuild the way he began every day. 15 minutes that changed his focus. Ethan didn't try to copy anyone else's routine. He didn't buy a fancy planner or download an app. He started simple, just 15 minutes. He woke up, made his bed, and whispered, "One small win." Then he did 20 push-ups on his cold garage floor. 2 wins. Then he wrote down 3 things he was grateful for in a cheap notebook. 3 wins. It felt small at first, almost silly. But within a week, something powerful happened. He noticed that when he started the day winning, he kept winning. By 9 a.m., while others were still shaking off sleep or scrolling through their phones, Ethan was already moving with energy and focus. Each small win was a deposit into his confidence account. Why small wins matter. Ethan discovered something Hill had written about a century earlier. The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. Those small morning victories were more than habits. They were proof. Proof that he could follow through. Proof that he was in control of his choices. Every time he completed his short routine, his mind received a simple but life-altering message: you can be trusted. And when a man begins to trust himself, his world changes. He no longer waited for motivation. He didn't rely on luck. His mornings became a launch pad, not into busyness, but into purpose, protecting his environment. But as Ethan grew more focused, he noticed something else. His environment was working against him. The radio in his shop played negative news all day. His coworkers complained about the economy and people at the top. And in the evenings, his TV screened problems he couldn't solve. No wonder he felt drained. One day, he turned off the radio, turned off the TV, and sat in silence. Then he wrote a note on his shop wall. Energy is contagious. Choose your company wisely. From that day forward, Ethan became ruthless about his environment. He started spending lunch breaks with a small group of local entrepreneurs instead of complainers. He cleaned his workspace until every tool had a place. When people asked why, he said simply, "My environment reflects my future." And it did. His thinking grew sharper, his energy stronger, his belief unshakable. The circle that shapes you, Napoleon Hill once said. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Ethan took that to heart. He looked around and asked, who am I becoming because of these people? He realized that success required new company. People who believed in growth, people who dreamed big, people who held him accountable. He stopped spending evenings gossiping at the local bar and started attending business meetups and volunteering at a local trade school. The conversations changed. The energy changed. And most importantly, he changed. He found himself surrounded by builders, not complainers. Dreamers, not doubters. And their belief became his belief. Taking 100% responsibility. Ethan's biggest breakthrough came the day his business partner made a costly mistake, a mistake that nearly bankrupted their small company. For a moment, his old habits flared up. He wanted to blame, to point fingers. But then he heard his mentor's voice. When you give away responsibility, you give away your power. That hit him like a hammer. He realized that every time he blamed someone else, he was saying, I'm not in control of my own destiny. So instead of saying, it's his fault. Ethan asked, what now? He stayed late that night, fixed the problem, and learned a lesson that would serve him for life. No one's coming to save you. Not luck, not timing, not anyone. You are responsible for what happens next. From that day forward, he stopped waiting for the right opportunity. He started creating it, becoming a lifelong learner. Once Ethan took full responsibility, a hunger for growth awakened inside him. He realized something crucial. The world rewards those who keep learning. He began to study, not just books, but people. He watched how successful business owners spoke, made decisions, treated others. He read 10 pages a night before bed, biographies, psychology, finance, anything that could sharpen his thinking, and he lived by this principle. An hour a day of study will put you at the top of your field within 3 years. He didn't wait for inspiration. He made learning part of his discipline, as automatic as brushing his teeth. He didn't try to read for hours. Just small, consistent doses. 10 pages became 20. 20 became a book a month. Within a year, he was teaching others what he had learned. Proof that learning, when applied, transforms you from the inside out. Letting go of what no longer serves you, but growth comes with pruning. As Ethan's business and mindset expanded, he noticed there were habits, relationships, and even dreams that no longer fit. The late nights at the bar. The small-town gossip. The need to prove himself to others. He let them go, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. He said to himself, I can't build the future I want while carrying the weight of who I used to be. And in that act of release, he found peace. Like a tree shedding its leaves, he wasn't losing. He was making space for new growth. The discipline that creates freedom. Ethan learned that success isn't built on motivation. It's built on discipline. Discipline to rise early. Discipline to think positively. Discipline to act even when he didn't feel like it. He discovered that discipline was not a prison, it was freedom. The freedom to live on his own terms. The freedom to trust himself. The freedom to know that no matter what happened, he could count on his own consistency. And every time he followed through on a promise he made to himself, his confidence deepened. Gratitude while you grind. One evening, sitting outside his workshop after another long day, Ethan felt something powerful. He wasn't where he wanted to be yet, but he was far from where he used to be. He looked at his tools, his team, the life he was building, and whispered, "Thank you." That simple gratitude didn't make him settle. It made him stronger. It reminded him that progress, not perfection, was the goal. He finally understood that gratitude and ambition weren't enemies. They were partners. You can appreciate what you have while building what you desire. Closing thought: success doesn't begin when you arrive. It begins each morning you decide to show up for yourself. Your 15-minute routine, your environment, your responsibility, your discipline. These are not small things. They are the foundation of greatness. As Ethan would soon discover, the next stage of transformation wasn't about mornings or mindset anymore. It was about courage, and how to keep moving forward when fear stands in the way. Would you like me to continue with part 3, Courage over Comfort? The fear that tests your faith. Next 1,000 word story? Part 3. The Power of Now. Stop waiting, start becoming. Inspired by the timeless philosophy of Napoleon Hill, told in story form, with simple language for modern America. Hook. The day Thomas stopped waiting. It was 5:47 a.m. on a gray Tuesday in Cleveland when Thomas finally broke his own spell. For 7 years, he had been saying the same thing every night before bed. I'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow came and went, hundreds of times. His notebook was full of plans, business ideas, fitness goals, financial strategies, but none had made it off the page. That morning, something shifted. Maybe it was the way the light hit his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Maybe it was the quiet ache of disappointment that had grown too heavy to ignore. Whatever it was, Thomas whispered something different this time. If I don't start now, I'll die waiting. And in that moment, that single, trembling decision, his life began to change. The waiting trap. Most people live their lives like Thomas once did, in preparation mode. They convince themselves they're being realistic, when really, they're just afraid. They wait for more money, more time, more confidence, or more approval before they start chasing their dream. But Napoleon Hill warned us over a century ago in Think and Grow Rich. Don't wait. The time will never be just right. Every person who has achieved anything remarkable began before they were ready. Steve Jobs started Apple in his parents' garage. Oprah Winfrey began her career after being told she wasn't fit for television. Elon Musk slept on the floor of his office in his early startup days. None of them waited for the stars to align. They started climbing under the storm. The myth of readiness here is a hard truth. You will never feel fully ready. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's what happens after you take action, not before. Most people confuse preparation with procrastination. They study success endlessly but never live it. They read books about courage but never take the leap. They plan every detail of the journey but never start walking the path. Thomas had done the same thing. He had bought planners, courses, and motivational books. His bookshelf looked like a self-help museum. But until he acted, all that knowledge was nothing more than potential energy. Knowledge only becomes power when you act on it. The magic of movement. When Thomas finally took his first step, launching his small online store with just one product, nothing extraordinary happened. No cheering crowds, no lightning bolts of inspiration. But something subtle did happen. His energy changed. He felt alive. His heart raced not from fear, but from purpose. That's the secret few talk about. Action creates emotion. Movement creates momentum. You don't wait until you feel confident to act. You act until you feel confident. Confidence is a byproduct of doing, not thinking. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Faith is the only known antidote for failure." And faith is built not through belief alone, but through motion, small, consistent steps that prove to your mind that you can. The law of immediate action. Successful people live by a different rhythm. When an idea hits them, they move, not tomorrow, not next week, now. They make the call, they write the email, they sign up for the class, they take the meeting, even if they're scared, even if they're unsure. This is the law of immediate action, a principle Hill lived by. Every delay weakens desire. Every hesitation feeds doubt. But every small, fast action strengthens your will. When Thomas started applying this law, his world opened up. The store he had once feared launching began to make small, steady sales. He built partnerships, learned new skills, and even began mentoring others. He wasn't lucky, he was decisive. Gratitude, the secret fuel. But here's what grounded him. Every night, before shutting his laptop, Thomas wrote 3 things he was grateful for, not in a grand way, but simply. I'm grateful I took one more step. I'm grateful for the 2 customers who believed in me. I'm grateful I didn't quit. That gratitude kept him balanced. It reminded him that growth wasn't about how far he still had to go, but how far he'd already come. Hill believed that gratitude is magnetism. He wrote, "The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does." And that principle applies not only to work, but to life. When you give thanks in advance, when you appreciate before you receive, you train your mind to attract more of what you desire. Gratitude transforms the grind into grace. The turning point. Months passed, and one cold December night, Thomas got an email. A large distributor wanted to carry his product nationwide. He sat there in disbelief. He thought back to that morning in the mirror, the one where he stopped waiting. It wasn't the day his business was born. It was the day he was reborn. He had become the kind of person Napoleon Hill wrote about, not someone who dreams of success, but someone who decides to succeed. The lesson: success lives in the now. The universe doesn't reward someday. It rewards now. Waiting for perfect conditions is like waiting for the wind to stop before setting sail. The wind never stops. You learn to steer through it. Here's what Napoleon Hill would tell you if he were alive today: don't wait for the right moment. Create it. Don't wait for confidence. Earn it through action. Don't wait for permission. Give it to yourself. Life isn't testing your patience. It's testing your courage. Your challenge tonight: look in the mirror like Thomas did. Ask yourself, what am I still waiting for? Then, act, send the message. Start the workout. Launch the project. Write the first paragraph. Make the call. Because in that first small action lies your freedom. And when you move, even trembling, even uncertain, you send a signal to life itself. I am ready now. That's when the world opens its doors. That's when opportunities appear. That's when destiny begins to respond. Would you like me to continue with part 4, 1,000 words? The Fire of Persistence, Turning Setbacks into Fuel. Written in the same Napoleon Hill-inspired story style? Part 4, The Fire of Persistence, Turning Setbacks into Fuel, inspired by the teachings of Napoleon Hill, written in a simple, powerful, story-driven style for the modern American reader. Hook: the night Sarah's dream died. Or so she thought. It was a rainy night in Chicago when Sarah locked the doors of her small bakery for what she believed was the last time. Her hands trembled as she turned the key, not from the cold, but from defeat. For 3 years she had poured her heart, savings, and soul into that little shop. Sweet Rise Bakery. She'd baked at 3 a.m., smiled through exhaustion, and believed deeply that hard work alone would be enough. But the numbers told another story. Rent overdue. Bills stacking. Her supplier threatening to cut off deliveries. That night she sat in her car, the rain tapping on the windshield like a cruel applause for her failure. Maybe it's time to quit, she whispered. But then, from the depths of her despair, a single sentence she'd read years ago in Think and Grow Rich surfaced in her mind like a lifeline. Before success comes in any man's life, he is sure to meet with much temporary defeat, and perhaps some failure. Napoleon Hill. That line struck her like thunder. Temporary defeat. Not permanent. Not final. Just temporary. Sarah took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, if this is temporary, then I'm not done yet. And that moment, that decision, became the spark that ignited her comeback. Every master was once a beginner who refused to quit. Napoleon Hill devoted an entire chapter of his classic work to persistence. He called it the sustained effort necessary to induce faith. Because persistence, not talent, not luck, not timing, is what separates those who almost make it from those who actually do. Every story of greatness, from Edison to Oprah, is built on one truth. When you feel like quitting, that's when you're closest to the gold. Edison failed more than 10,000 times before creating a working light bulb. Colonel Sanders was rejected 1,009 times before someone said yes to his fried chicken recipe. J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter manuscript was turned down by 12 publishers before one finally took a chance. Each of them had a Sarah moment, a night where quitting seemed easier. But they pushed through, and persistence turned their pain into power. The turning point, from breakdown to breakthrough. Sarah decided to give herself 30 more days before calling it quits. But this time, she did something different. She studied why her bakery was failing instead of simply working harder. She realized she had been trying to be everything to everyone, selling too many products, spreading herself too thin, and competing on price instead of purpose. So, she made a new plan. She would focus on one signature product, a line of gourmet sourdough breads baked with locally sourced ingredients. She'd tell a story with every loaf, the story of family, tradition, and craftsmanship. It was risky, but so is giving up. She called her landlord, explained her new direction, and asked for one more month to turn things around. She redesigned her shop's front window herself, worked through the nights, and used every ounce of creativity she had left. The first week, only a handful of customers came. But they loved the bread. By week 2, they brought friends. By week 4, she was selling out by noon. That same landlord who nearly evicted her walked in one day, bought 3 loaves, and said, "Sarah, this place feels alive again." The lesson: persistence is emotional mastery. Persistence isn't just about pushing harder. It's about controlling your emotions when the world tells you to stop. Fear will whisper, "You're wasting your time." Doubt will say, "You're not good enough." Comfort will tempt you, "You've done enough, take it easy." But the persistent soul, the one Napoleon Hill admired, answers each voice the same way: "I'm not finished yet." Persistence doesn't mean you never rest. It means you never surrender. It means you learn, adjust, and keep moving. When Sarah felt weak, she didn't deny it. She prayed. She read Hill's words aloud. Every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Those words reminded her that failure wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Persistence transforms pain into power. Napoleon Hill told a story about a man named Arthur Darby who stopped digging for gold just 3 feet before striking the richest vein in Colorado history. Someone else picked up his abandoned tools and found it. That story became legend, a warning to never stop 3 feet from gold. Sarah's bakery had been her mine. And when she decided to keep digging, even when logic said quit, she discovered her gold. Within 2 years, Sweet Rye's Bakery was featured in a local food magazine. By year 3, she opened a second location. People called her lucky. But she knew luck had nothing to do with it. She hadn't found gold, she had earned it. How to build your own persistence. You don't have to run a bakery to understand Sarah's story. Every dream will test you the same way. Here's what Napoleon Hill taught about persistence, and how to apply it. 1. Define your purpose clearly. A weak goal creates weak persistence. Know why you're doing what you're doing. Sarah didn't bake just for money, she baked to share joy and connection. That's what kept her going. Point 2. Feed your mind with faith daily. Read, listen, and surround yourself with stories of people who didn't give up. The mind becomes what it consumes. Point 3. Turn failure into feedback. Don't run from defeat, study it. Every failed attempt reveals what doesn't work, bringing you closer to what does. Point 4. Build a circle of believers. Napoleon Hill called this the Mastermind principle. Surround yourself with people who see your potential when you can't. Sarah had a friend, Jake, who refused to let her quit. We all need a Jake. Point 5. Commit publicly. When you declare your dream out loud, you give it weight. You create accountability. Sarah announced her new bakery direction on social media. That public commitment made her unstoppable. The reward of relentlessness. When you practice persistence, you begin to notice something beautiful. Life starts testing you less, and rewarding you more. Because persistence builds trust between you and the universe. It tells life, "You can test me all you want. I'm not leaving." And eventually life surrenders, and gives you what you've earned. Napoleon Hill said it best. Persistence is to the character of man what carbon is to steel. It hardens you, strengthens you, turns you into someone who cannot be broken. Your turn, the decision that changes everything. Somewhere in your life, there's a dream you've almost buried. A project you've half finished. A goal you've talked yourself out of. Before you quit, remember Sarah. Remember Hill. Remember every great soul who refused to surrender. Because the truth is simple. Most people fail not because they can't, but because they stop. The world doesn't reward the smartest, fastest, or luckiest. It rewards the most persistent. So tonight, when doubt creeps in and whispers, "It's over," stand taller, breathe deeper, and say with conviction, "No. It's just temporary defeat." Then rise again. Because persistence, not perfection, is what turns ordinary lives into extraordinary legacies. Would you like me to continue with part 5? Faith and Vision, seeing the invisible before it becomes visible. Next, written in the same Napoleon Hill-inspired story format, 1,000 words. Part 5, Faith and Vision, seeing the invisible before it becomes visible, inspired by Napoleon Hill's timeless philosophy, written in story style, 1,000 words. In simple American language, Hook, the farmer who planted seeds in a drought in a small Texas town many years ago. There was a farmer named Ben Carter who did something that made his neighbors shake their heads. The land was bone dry. The heat cracked the earth. Everyone else had given up on planting that year. They said, "Ben, you're wasting your time. Nothing's gonna grow." But Ben just smiled and said, "Maybe so. But I'm not planting for the weather. I'm planting for the harvest I can't see yet. Every morning, he walked through that dusty field, watering the ground that looked dead. His neighbors called him foolish. His wife called him stubborn. But Ben called it faith. And 3 months later, when unexpected rains swept through and the sun softened, Ben's field was the only one in the county that sprouted green. He harvested enough to feed his family and sell at the market, while others stood staring, amazed. Ben had seen what they couldn't, because he believed before there was proof. Faith is seeing with the mind when the eyes can. Napoleon Hill called faith the eternal elixir, the invisible force that turns thought into reality. In Think and Grow Rich, he wrote. Faith is the visualization of and belief in the attainment of desire. Faith is not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It's the mental blueprint that precedes every visible success. Thomas Edison had faith in light before light existed. The Wright brothers had faith in flight before flight was possible. Martin Luther King Jr. had faith in freedom before it was realized. Faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, and achieves the impossible. The story of Jack, the man who built before he could afford it. Jack Morales, a mechanic from Ohio, had a dream to open his own auto repair shop. He'd spent 15 years fixing other people's cars in other people's garages, always telling himself, "One day I'll have my own place." But like many, Jack waited for the perfect time, until one day, his company downsized, and someday, was gone. He sat at his kitchen table with his wife, Maria, staring at a stack of bills and a small savings account. It wasn't enough to start a business, not even close. But Maria said softly, "Jack, if not now, when?" That night, Jack made a decision, to act as if his dream was already real. He started drawing plans for his future shop. He made a logo. He listed the services he would offer and the prices he'd charge. He even printed business cards with the words, "Morales Auto, honest work done right." He didn't have a building yet. But he had a vision, and as Napoleon Hill taught, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Belief before evidence. Jack rented a small, beat-up garage behind a grocery store, barely big enough for one car. He scrubbed the floors, painted the walls, and hung a sign he made himself. People laughed. "You're calling that a business?" they asked. But Jack didn't see what they saw. He saw a future chain of garages across Ohio. He saw customers who trusted him, employees who believed in him, and a life built on freedom, not fear. He held that vision so strongly that it began to shape his actions, and his actions began to shape his world. He treated every car like it belonged to a millionaire. He followed up with every customer. He gave free tire checks and handwrote thank you notes. Slowly, word spread. 1 year later, Jack opened his second location. 3 years later, he had 5. When asked how he did it, he smiled and said, "I built it twice, first in my mind, then in reality." Faith creates its own evidence. Faith isn't just spiritual, it's practical psychology. When you believe in something strongly, your subconscious mind begins searching for ways to make it real. It filters opportunities, attracts ideas, and strengthens your focus. That's why Napoleon Hill insisted that faith must be mixed with purpose. You can't just hope. You must see it, feel it, and act as if it's already true. He wrote, "Your subconscious mind will translate a thought of belief into its physical equivalent. So if you feed your mind fear, it creates failure. If you feed it faith, it creates fortune." Ben Carter's field grew not because of luck, but because of expectation. Jack's business thrived not because of perfect timing, but because of conviction. How to build unshakable faith. Like Hill taught, faith, like muscle, grows through practice. Here are the steps Napoleon Hill outlined, simple but powerful, that still work today. 1. Fix your mind on a definite purpose. Don't wander. Choose one major goal and pour your belief into it. 2. Affirm it daily. Write it down. Speak it aloud every morning and night. I will own my own business. I am building my dream. Repetition turns belief into conviction. 3. Visualize the outcome. See it in your imagination as clearly as if it already exists. Feel the emotions, the pride, the gratitude, the joy. 4. Surround yourself with faith builders, not fear-mongers. As Hill said, your mind mirrors those around you. Stay close to believers, not doubters. 5. Act boldly, even in uncertainty. Faith without action is fantasy. You must walk while you still can't see the road. When doubt knocks, answer with vision, doubt will always come. It's part of the process. Even Ben had days when the sky stayed cruelly blue and the soil cracked deeper. Even Jack had weeks when no customers came and bills piled up. But both remembered this truth. Every man who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn his ships and cut all sources of retreat. Napoleon Hill. Faith doesn't work when there's a backup plan for quitting. You can't keep one foot in your comfort zone and the other in your calling. When you decide, really decide, life responds. The miracle of invisible work. Sometimes, faith feels like nothing is happening. You work hard. You wait long. You wonder if it's all for nothing. But like seeds beneath the soil, growth is happening where you can't see it. Faith is trusting that the invisible effort, the late nights, the small wins, the silent persistence, will someday become visible results. When the first sprouts appeared in Ben's field, he didn't act surprised. He just smiled and said, "Right on time." Faith doesn't say, "If." Faith says, "When." Your turn. Believe before you see. Right now, there's something in your heart, a business idea, a dream, a goal, that others can't see yet. That's okay. It's not their vision. It's yours. Stop waiting for the world to validate what you already know inside. Hold the picture of your dream so clearly in your mind that no one can talk you out of it. Napoleon Hill believed that when you mix faith with desire and persistence, the universe conspires to make it real. So, plant your seeds, even in drought. Build your vision, even in doubt. Walk forward, even in fog. Because every miracle starts as a moment of faith in the unseen. And one day, when your harvest comes, people will say you were lucky. But you'll know the truth, you were faithful. Would you like me to continue with part 6? The Mastermind of Success. The Power of Association and Shared Vision. Next, written in the same Napoleon Hill-inspired story style, 1,000 words. Part 6. The Mastermind Secret. How Shared Vision Multiplies Success. Inspired by Napoleon Hill. Story style, 1,000 words. Written in clear, powerful American language. Hook. The table in the back room in 1920. Long before he became the world's most famous success author, Napoleon Hill met with a small group of dreamers in the back of a Chicago restaurant. There was a banker, a salesman, a young lawyer, and Hill himself, a man who'd been studying the habits of America's richest men. They met every week, same day, same hour, at the same table. They didn't meet to gossip or complain. They met to think. Each man came with one purpose: to sharpen his vision, strengthen his belief, and help the other succeed. When Hill later wrote about it, he said, "That table was where the concept of the Mastermind Alliance was born, the most powerful principle of success I have ever discovered." The power of minds working together. Napoleon Hill believed something that science would later prove true, that when two or more minds come together with harmony and a shared purpose, they create a third mind, a greater intelligence, a kind of invisible force that amplifies creativity, courage, and results. He called this power the mastermind principle. It's not just teamwork. It's aligned energy. Think about it. No great empire, company, or movement in history was built alone. Ford had Edison. Carnegie had Schwab. Jobs had Wozniak. King had his movement. Washington had his generals. Every person who achieved something remarkable had a circle of minds who believed in the vision as much as they did. The story of Emma. The dream that needed a team. Emma Lee was a young entrepreneur from North Carolina with a dream of creating a wellness brand built on natural healing and mindfulness. She worked tirelessly, packaging her own teas, designing her own website, managing every detail alone. But after 2 years, she hit a wall. Sales slowed. Her creativity dried up. Her confidence wavered. One night, exhausted and discouraged, she came across an old audiobook, Think and Grow Rich. She listened until she heard Hill's words that stopped her cold. No individual has ever achieved lasting success without the cooperation of others. That sentence pierced through her exhaustion. She realized she had been trying to do the work of 10 people by herself, and her pride was costing her progress. So she made a new decision: to find her mastermind. Building her mastermind. Emma started small. She invited 3 people she trusted: her cousin Dana, a marketing student, a retired business owner named Paul, and a local yoga teacher, Maya, who shared her values. Every Wednesday, they met at a coffee shop at 7 a.m. sharp. No distractions. No excuses. Each meeting began with the same 3 questions. 1. What did you accomplish since last week? 2. What challenge are you facing? 3. How can we help you overcome it? At first, it felt awkward. But soon, something magical began to happen. Ideas started flowing. Ideas Emma would never have thought of alone. Paul shared wisdom from years of experience. Dana suggested a social media strategy that doubled their followers. Maya inspired Emma to add a mindfulness journal to her product line, which became her bestseller. Within 6 months, Emma's little group became a powerhouse of progress. Her business tripled in revenue, but more importantly, her spirit came alive again. She often said, "The mastermind gave me more than ideas. It gave me belief." Hill's timeless lesson: you can't rise alone. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "No two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind." That third mind is synergy, the power that multiplies effort, accelerates ideas, and attracts success faster than any single person could on their own. Hill knew that when you surround yourself with people who think big, dream boldly, and act decisively, you absorb their mindset. You start expecting more from yourself. But here's the key: your mastermind must be built on harmony and purpose, not ego. A mastermind isn't a gossip circle or a complaint club. It's a sacred alliance of minds committed to a shared vision and to each other's growth. How to create your own mastermind alliance? You can build your own circle of success right now, just like Hill, just like Emma. Here's how. 1. Choose the right people. Look for 2 to 5 people who share your ambition and integrity. They don't have to be in the same field. Diversity makes the group stronger. Point 2. Set a consistent meeting time, weekly or bi-weekly, but never random. Consistency builds momentum. Point 3. Agree on ground rules: respect, confidentiality, accountability, and positivity. No negativity or excuses allowed. Point 4. Bring value to every meeting. Don't just take, contribute. Share an idea, a connection, or a resource. Point 5. Keep the vision alive. Start every session by reaffirming each member's goals. Speak them out loud. As Hill taught, words mixed with emotion become magnets for reality. Your mastermind should feel like a charging station for your soul, a place where faith gets refueled, ideas are born, and momentum grows. The invisible power of association. You've heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That's not just motivational fluff. It's truth. If you spend time with people who talk about limitations, your dreams will shrink to fit theirs. If you surround yourself with people who talk about possibilities, your dreams will stretch to meet theirs. That's the power of association. Your circle either drains your potential or develops it. Your environment either dulls your fire or fans it. Choose carefully. Because as Hill said, every mind needs friendly contact with other minds for food of expansion and growth. The Circle of Champions. After years of studying more than 500 millionaires, from Henry Ford to Andrew Carnegie, Napoleon Hill discovered they all had one thing in common: none of them walked alone. They each had a circle of champions, advisors, partners, and friends who helped them think bigger, stay grounded, and persist through storms. Carnegie once told Hill, "If you want to be rich, find people smarter than you and get them working with you, not for you." That was the moment Hill realized success was never a solo act. It was a symphony of minds playing in harmony. You don't need to know everything. You just need the right people. You don't need every answer. You just need the right allies. Your mastermind can help you see what you can't, encourage you when you're low, and challenge you when you get complacent. Success is not a mountain you climb alone. It's a team of climbers pulling each other up one step at a time. So, ask yourself, who challenges me to grow? Who believes in me when I doubt myself? Who makes me think bigger, not smaller? Those are your people. Keep them close. The call to action: your turn to create the circle now. You've reached the end of this 6-part journey. But the real journey begins today. You've learned that success isn't something you chase. It's something you attract by becoming. You've learned about clarity, mindset, faith, and persistence. You've discovered that you can't do it alone. You need a mastermind. So here's your challenge. Backhand index pointing right. Build your circle this week. Find your 2 or 3 allies in growth. Start meeting. Start sharing. Start thinking together. And if this series inspired you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Help them see what's possible. Leave a comment about what you've learned. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss the next series. Because we're just getting started on this path to mastering the mind and shaping destiny. Remember, as Napoleon Hill said. When a mastermind is formed, it gives to every participant the full power of all the minds in the group. So step into that power, find your mastermind, and watch your life transform, one idea, one decision, and one alliance at a time. Your future is waiting. Don't just dream it, build it together. Would you like me to create a short summary or closing message for all 6 parts together, like a book-style conclusion or final reflection in Hill's voice?